Hi Jay, and hello world. I wanted to continue with what I was talking about last week, about trying to help people change to be morally better by shaping the system so that it is more encouraging for them to be morally better. I wanted to separate this into two categories. One, which is extrinsic motivations that are sort of from the outside in, and one is intrinsic motivations that is kind of just sort of, I guess, from the inside outwards. An example of extrinsic motivation would be laws that are sort of like imposed on society so that people are encouraged to do good things and penalized for doing bad things. An example of intrinsic motivation would be like relationships and mutual benefit that comes from doing good from somebody, or the problems that come from doing bad to somebody. These exist whether or not there's a government. So intrinsic motivations exist just because of the system existing. So living in a world with people automatically, there's going to be trade-offs to how I interact with people, whether or not there's a government. Whenever we live sort of inside a sort of an organized system, then there can be extrinsic motivations. Extrinsic motivations, like laws, are a way to encourage positive behaviors when society doesn't otherwise sort of intrinsically kind of reward positive behaviors. So for example, if you're on Reddit and you're just talking to people, if you were to somehow develop rapport with sort of a person, then that would be an intrinsic reward for kind of being kind to somebody, and then them remembering you and choosing to be kind back. And the same for if you were bad to a person. But alternatively, if you were sort of navigating anonymously, then maybe it's hard for you to develop a reputation. Reddit karma is then an example of extrinsic motivation. It sort of allows for the system to reward you when anybody thinks you do a good thing, and then that reputation stays with you. That can be removed by Reddit, and that wouldn't change the fact that it's a social space where people are talking and doing Reddit stuff. In society, an example might be if you sort of are generous and so you donate to your local community and you were to then reap the benefits of a sort of more flourishing local community, that would sort of be an example of intrinsic motivation. You did a good thing and then the good came back around to you just through just like a community of people. Whereas an extrinsic motivation would be like tax breaks that comes from like charitable donations. That's the government saying the country benefits as a whole, even if you don't notice the effects of your charity. And so let's kind of give you a sort of a reward for that, to sort of help encourage people to do that. When I was talking last week about us living in a system that doesn't encourage positive morals, I'm mostly talking about the intrinsic, but I think ultimately we need both. I think we all agree if there were no laws, then more people would do bad stuff, just because it'd be sort of hard to stop that. But I think we all agree that if there was, no kindness, then no laws would ever stop bad things from happening. I personally think kindness is more important because government isn't sort of this external thing, it's sort of the people, and I don't think bad people can make good government. Our government isn't working that well right now, and we are fortunate enough to live in a democratic society, and our elections were fairly and democratically elected. So I personally think that speaks less about the system for all its problems, but I think that it points more to the root problem being us as a large societal community of people having discord with one another. America is an increasingly polarized place, and I personally don't think we will ever see the government fixed until that is fixed. I think it's easy to think the government is so corrupt. If we fix the government, or if we fix these evil capitalist companies, then things will be better. But we vote for this system to be in place that allows companies to do what they want to do and elects the people into power that we elect. So ultimately, we chose this in a nuanced and complicated way. Clearly, humans, we don't automatically want the best for one another, but we did evolve to have that, right? If a human society didn't work when there wasn't a government, we would never get to a place where there is a government. So clearly being morally good must be sort of intrinsically motivating enough in itself. And yet, I feel like most people would agree we don't live in that society now where not only do we need laws to stop people doing bad things, but the laws don't exist that actually allow people to focus on giving to other people with an expectation that that would actually come back around to them. I think it's understandable that most people don't see a viable way forward in sort of being selfless and thinking of others before themselves in our current modern society. I'm of the view, until that is the case again, that we are unlikely to see the moral change we want to see. But I think we can change the system to make it so it's possible. And I want to talk more about that next week when I first get back to tribal societies and why that worked, and how we got to where we are, and how we ended up in the situation that we're in. I do believe that we can bring change. Thank you for doing this with me, Jay, and I'm excited to continue to do this and bring in change with you in the future.